Yeah, you heard me right. We don't need any more immigrants. Get this. 2 Chechnya Muslim children arrived from their war-torn homeland 10 years ago to partake in America's incredible opportunities, freedom, personal choice, education, endless job possibilities, and religious freedom. Tamerlan, 26 years old, arrived at the age of 16. He became a successful Golden Glove boxer, married an American girl, and fathered a child. A judge found him guilty of domestic abuse with a felony conviction in 2009, but was not deported as per law. His younger brother, Jakar, 19, arrived at 9 years of age, pursuing a nursing major at the University of Massachusetts, and became an American citizen September 11th, 2012. With all their freedoms of choice, they chose to bomb the Boston Marathon, killing 3 and wounding 170 innocent fellow Americans. Their actions, along with 21 other documented FBI terrorist plots caught before being carried out within the U.S. by Muslims in the past 11 years, and more being formed as we speak, document the collapse of the assimilation theory of immigration into the United States. In other words, it doesn't work with the kind of Islamic immigrants being imported into the United States in the 21st century. It doesn't work with the Mexican immigrants flooding over our southern borders. It doesn't work with the endless waves of Hmongs taking over our St. Paul capital city. It's not working here, or in Canada, in Europe, or Australia. In 1965, the Immigration Reform Bill dumped 100 million legal immigrants onto America from every corner of the world. With brash and arrogant presumptiveness, former Senator Teddy Kennedy submerged the American people with intractable poverty, multiple languages, incompatible cultures, and the terror-based religion of Islam. Those terrorists, the ones from the Boston Marathon, they offer several what should be non-ideological lessons. It's now obvious that anyone in this country, citizen or immigrant, can be found, and quickly. Positive, rapid ID can be done. So we are talking only of the will to do the ID job, doing the right thing so we know who is in this U.S. and why, legally or illegally. Doesn't it seem obvious that in our society, which values the rule of law, our rightful identity should be made as transparent, simple, and as secure as possible? But the key lesson, the insane scale of unneeded alien imports since 1965. 1 million legal immigrants added to the U.S. year after year, decade after decade, without pause or question. Total of 100 million by 2007, and projected to add another 100 million immigrants by 2050. Less than 36 years from now. There appeared on my breakfast table one day an article from the Wall Street Journal which told us volumes about these 2 young terrorists from the Boston Marathon. It brilliantly documented the alienation that can grow even after years and some success in a new country. "I like the U.S.," said the older one to the newspaper reporter in 2004 while he was competing for a boxing tournament shortly after arriving in the U.S. "America has a lot of jobs." But a caption accompanying the photo said, "Originally from Chechnya, but living in the U.S. Since 5 years ago, I don't have a single American friend. I don't understand them." These boys, they floated around into the American dynamic where their uncertainty, their poverty, and friendlessness apparently pushed them into a need to make a statement. But you know, we all belong to tribes. It's a crucial factor in human identity. These boys' first and last loyalty stood with Islam. Everything about Islam counters everything in the United States of America. Freedom for women, freedom for religious choice, freedom for lifestyle choice, freedom for dress, freedom to speak freely, freedom to marry your choice of mate, freedom from female genital mutilation, and the list grows. Have you ever wondered why, in the ongoing presidential campaign, we so strongly hear the pipes calling us to arms? Why the religious among us bristle at any challenge to the creation story they believe? Or even why team sports evoke such intense loyalty, joy, and despair? The answer is that everyone, no exception, must have a tribe, an alliance with which to jockey for power and territory, to demonize the enemy, to organize rallies and raise flags, and so it has ever been. In ancient history and prehistory, tribes gave visceral comfort and pride from a familiar fellowship, and a way to defend the group enthusiastically against rival groups. It gave people a name in addition to their own and a social meaning in a chaotic world. It made the environment less disorienting and dangerous. Human nature has not changed. Modern groups are physiologically equivalent to the tribes of ancient history. As such, these groups are directly descended from the bands of primitive humans and pre-humans. So, as we piled millions from desert bush tribes into America from the Middle East, and millions of bush people from Africa, and millions from the jungles of Laos, how do we think they will mesh with the American tribe? They aren't and haven't for the past 45 years of this malicious, endless importation of immigrants from incompatible cultures from around the world. The piling on of continuous layers of new immigrants, even in communities of similar ethnicity, results in crowding, poverty, and the sense of hopelessness that apparently emerged in the minds of at least that older bomber. We gotta think much harder about how many aliens we should allow to come here. Numbers do matter. Adding millions more of any ethnic origin into an already crowded, contentious, and economically troubled environment must hit it all, but the wealthy, very hard. We can expect more apparent immigrant behavior to overwhelm our fractured society, our splintered sense of what it means to be an American, and the intense overcrowding of our country that cannot be sustained. We do not want an amnesty forced upon us to give us another 20 million people who arrived illegally and do not want to assimilate into America. But in fact, they want to form their own enclaves, tribal rituals, and everything that's counter to our American tribe. We specifically do not want the 50% added legal immigration number that will bring 1.5 million immigrants annually. You know, we may as well commit suicide as a civilization. I'm Hmong, and you cannot find Hmong on the map of the world. There is no country that is mine. So I link myself up to the people who love me, who no matter where we are, carved out a place to belong for me. When I was born, my mom and dad had been in the camp less than a year. They had nothing. My parents tell me that I was a gift in a time of nothing. I was born in a place where Hmong people only got food 3 days out of the week, so for the remainder of the time we had to find something to eat. My mother had 6 miscarriages after me, because how do you carry on life when you can't even feed yourself? My refugee experience is very much through the eyes of a child. Child prostitution was huge, and so people tried to barter for me as a kid because I was cute. I had pale skin in a life where a lot of people lived and toiled beneath the burning sun, so my mother and father protected me. My playground was only the stretch of her skirt. I could only play so far. In Ben Vinai refugee camp, my family, 100 of us, were all together, and they were holding on tight. My grandma, she has this imagery that she loved, and I too now love it, of a mother elephant surrounding their children. That's what the camp was like for me. My father used to carry me and my sister in his arms and climb the high trees in the compound. He would hold us up and say, "Your father is holding you up to see the world, because one day your little feet will walk on the horizons your father has never seen." He would look at my sister and me, and he would tell us, "You are not a child of poverty and despair, but you are hope being born." Hope. Well, we came to America when the camps were closing. My dad heard that America was a land where girls could be educated too. He only had 2 girls. The 6 miscarriages after me were all little boys. So my father wanted to come to a place where his girls would have a chance at life. Yeah, July 27th, 1987, we came to America. I remember riding in a car coming from the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport to the McDonough Housing Project, thinking how beautiful the world was because there were street lights on either side. For a child who fears the dark, it was better than any dream I knew how to dream. But, the projects became another camp of a sort. People would drive by and they would throw bottles, not to hit me, but to scare me maybe. But I was only a kid, and I thought those broken pieces of glass were diamonds. So I used to pick up handfuls of broken glass and tell my mom and dad that I had found diamonds. And my mom and dad, instead of telling me the truth, they'd ask, "What do you want to do with your diamonds?" And I would say, "I want to bury them for other kids to find." So I spent my days burying pieces of broken glass. My mom and dad gave us a lot of room to dream. My father, he's a song poet, so he's got this incredibly powerful voice. In America, I watched his voice fall apart because he didn't know English. At work, people would tell him, "You're here to talk to the machines. You're not here to talk to me." My mother and father became very silent in America. You can only talk if people want to listen. When I was 7, I think, we went to Kmart, and my mom asked for a light bulb, but she didn't know the word for light bulb. So she said, "I'm looking for the thing that makes the world shiny." And my mom carries a really thick accent. The clerk walked away from my mother and didn't come back. My mother stood in the aisle at Kmart looking at her feet. I remember deciding that I didn't need to speak in a world that would not hear my mom and my dad. So I became a selective mute, and I didn't speak again publicly until 2008. I just whispered my way through Carleton College. So, when you start feeling like you have a lot to hide, you become very lonely in America. So there were a lot of moments where I felt terribly, terribly alone. In the end, I think it made me a better, stronger person. If I could give any piece of advice to anybody coming into America as newcomers, it would be that you have to ask, is there another way to do it? Because it is about breaking down walls. It is about finding new ways of seeing. You can begin to ask that question, and it opens up pathways for you to be. My dad, 2 summers ago, my father wanted to cut down the tall tree in our backyard in Andover. And he had this idea. He wanted to put up a ladder against the tree, carry another ladder on his back, untie the one from his back, tie it to the tree, and then go up that ladder and cut down the tree limbs. And I'm like, "Dad, I don't think that's legal." He says, "If you're so worried about legality, you go stand by the side of the road and tell me when the cops are coming." And so I go there. But my brother-in-law says, "Dad, if you want to do that, let me do it, because I'm younger, and if I fall, my bones will heal faster." And my father, you know what he said? My father said, "If you think you're going to fall, you're not going up." So my father does it. And we see him. He's a middle-aged, balding, overweight man, and he's putting the ladder up against the tree, climbing it, untying the one from his back, tying that one to the tree, climbing that, cutting down the tree limbs one at a time. I'm so impressed. I say, "Oh my God, that's pretty amazing." He looks over at me so curious and says, "There's nothing amazing about what I've done. All over Southeast Asia, people cut down trees this way. The failure of the American education system is that it's never taught you to ask, is there another way to do it? If your teachers had asked you that question, if you had learned how to ask them that question, you would have exploded the classroom and all the world."